Welcome to the Mom and Mind podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kat, and we just passed Mother's Day, and I hope that you had a good Mother's Day. I want to say, though, that sometimes those days go great and you have great feelings and you're honored in the way that you deserve, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you don't have a great Mother's Day, or it feels complex or complicated, and or there are ways in which people don't show up for you in the way that you'd like them to. And it can be a complicated day for many reasons. I just want to acknowledge that sometimes that day can feel complicated and complex, and sometimes it can feel great. So, for any of you out there who are having any complex feelings about Mother's Day, I just want you to know that you're not alone. And I'm excited to bring you another great episode. And specifically during Maternal Mental Health Month, I'm really excited to be joined by Dr. Ruta and Allie Hales, who are the co hosts of a brand new podcast called So Glad You Asked. We're going to hear a lot about that podcast, how and why it was formed, and how it's filling some really needed gaps in the space of maternal mental health. Allie Hales is a mom of four and is passionate about making reliable, relevant information available for moms just like herself. She graduated from the J. Reuben Clark Law School at Brigham Young University and is a member of the Massachusetts Bar. She serves on Brigham and Women's Hospital Newborn Medicine and Reproductive Health Advisory Board, Newton Wellesley Hospital's Maternity Services Council, and is actively involved with the Boston Center for Endometriosis. She grew up in the suburbs of Boston and is currently living in Baltimore with her husband, who is a resident at Johns Hopkins Hospital, along with their four children. And she joins Dr. Ruta on this podcast today to talk about So Glad You Asked. Dr. Ruta completed a fellowship in perinatal and reproductive psychiatry at Mass General Hospital. She's a clinical instructor at Harvard Medical School, a senior psychiatrist within the Center for Women's Mental Health at MGH, and the creator and editor-in-chief of their website, womensmentalhealth.org, which is, by the way, a website and resource that I have accessed many times. Her work has been published in a number of scientific journals and books in the area of women's mental health. She's the author of A Deeper Shade of Blue, a woman's guide to recognizing and treating depression in her childbearing years. Their podcast has a fantastic format and I know will help so many people. So let's dig in and meet Ruta and Allie. Welcome, Ruta and Allie. I am so excited that you're here with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love for everyone to get to know you guys a little bit because the work that you've been doing, Ruta, for some time at MGH is really important. And you've been putting out a lot of work there. And Allie, you have your own experience with perinatal mental health. And I'd love to just understand what brought you both to this point in creating this podcast.
As you mentioned, I've been doing this for a long time. I started with the program back in 1994 or 95 or something like that, and started working with moms who were pregnant, who were planning for pregnancy, treating postpartum depression as part of the reproductive psychiatry group at Mass General. And I think one of the things that has always been both frustrating and exciting to me is how do we get information out to providers and information to patients so that they can get the care they need. And I think through my career, as you've been in this field for a while, I think we've made a lot of strides in terms of providing information and getting it out to providers. I think OBGYN providers are much better at talking about postpartum mood and anxiety disorders, identifying it, treating it. I feel like we still have a ways to go in terms of getting treatment to everybody. And at Mass General, one of the things I helped create was our website, which is womensmentalhealth.org, which provides a lot of evidence-based information. I think that's been good for providers, but we can probably do more in terms of getting that information to patients. And that's really been my primary goal.
Yeah, you've been writing articles and posting on there for quite some time.
24 years to be exact.
So you're ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. You're just in terms of helping the perinatal mental field grow and putting out the information. As I was understanding the podcast and the work you've been doing, it seems like an extension and an expansion of the information you've been putting out there and into this really tangible, usable, accessible way for people to hear about it. And Allie, you're also bringing some of your lived experience into the podcast. And anyways, I would love for you also to share what brought you to this point.
Sure. So I think for me, my journey into this space really started with my first period in
Okay.
2003. And I had a horrible first period, and my pediatrician didn't understand why. It just was unfortunate luck of the draw. You just have terrible periods, and that's something you'll have to deal with your whole life. And that was how I started my women's health journey. And it wasn't until almost 10 years later that my aunt diagnosed me with endometriosis.
Yeah.
And it was because her daughter had gotten a diagnosis and some of our symptoms had been similar. And it was a really long time before we figured that out. We don't have anyone medical in my family. It just was something that we didn't really talk about. It just, we trusted whoever our provider was, and that's what it ended up being. And as I decided to start a family, my first child was born in 2015, and he was born early. He was in the NICU for a month, and then all my subsequent pregnancies, I have 4 children, all had different kinds of complications along with them. And it was hard for me to find a space where my experience felt validated, but also I was getting expert advice at the same time. I felt my family could validate what I was experiencing to some extent, my friends could, but finding that expert advice where I really felt like I was getting this full wraparound experience was really difficult for me to find in my own experiences.
Yeah. How did you get connected with Ruta and MGH?
After my second child was born in Boston, I grew up outside of Boston and we had moved back there for my husband actually to attend medical school. So now we do have someone medical in the family. But I had just a rough experience with both of them. My son, as I mentioned, was born early, and he was actually born 2 weeks before my law school finals, and it just was a totally chaotic situation. And then my daughter had some other complications when I was pregnant, and she was breech, and I ended up having a C-section. And both experiences were just really difficult, and I felt pretty rocked by both of them. And my mother's always been very philanthropic and very involved in the community. And at the time, she was on the board of trustees at Newton Wellesley Hospital, which is part of the MGB system. And she put me in touch with their newly formed Maternity Services Council, which is now part of something called their Community Collaborative, where they bring in people that are not medical and seeking advice and input from them on how to make the experience better. So that's how I first got involved. And then I ended up being introduced to Mike Jelnick, who was involved. He was the president of Partners Health for a while, and he put me in touch with Lee Cohen, who's a psychiatrist at MGH. I talked to him about my experience and my desire to find something for just an average non-medical person to try and figure out a way where we could feel validation, but also find expert opinions and advice. And he put me and Ruta in touch, and then now we've started on this path that I'm really excited about.
That's just amazing. I love hearing these kind of not origin stories, but like how things started. If you would have asked me however many years ago, are you ever going to host a podcast? It'd be like, first, what's a podcast? And then second, no, you just never know how you're going to end up here. But I like the needs and the drive that you have, Allie, and the expertise and the need that you have, Ruta, really are coming together in this beautiful way for the podcast that yeah, anyways, having listened to it, it's so good. But I before we like kind of get a little bit more into that, Ruta, I'd like to know from your perspective, and you were saying that you wanting to get information out to people, make it more accessible. What have been some of the barriers to doing that or the challenges in getting
Mhm.
information out?
I think there's the barriers to getting information out, and then there's the barriers to getting treatment or accessing treatment. And I think they go a little bit together. I think what we've seen over the last couple of decades is more information, more treaters. I think we're doing a better job at getting information out to treaters so that moms with the worst symptoms get treated. I think it feels like there's this large group of moms who don't necessarily have a disorder. They don't have postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, but they have other challenges. And I don't know what to call that. It's like postpartum distress. And I feel if we could get information to that group earlier, here's support, here's what you can do about this breastfeeding issue, this sleep challenge. And then we can intervene earlier and prevent postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. And we can have people going down the right channel to get treatment. So that's not entirely answering your question. I think in terms of, sorry, that's probably me.
It's okay.
No, if it is me or oh, it is. Okay. So that's not entirely answering your question, but I think what has happened over time that in some ways there's actually too much information out there. That's hard for me to say, but it used to be that when somebody came in and we were talking about treatment, we would say, oh, there's 2 antidepressants that have been studied. You can use A or you can use B. And now there's more data, more information on the internet. Some of it is good, but you have to plow through a lot, and there's a lot of misinformation. And I think there's also a tendency, especially with social media, to maybe prey upon is too strong a word, but to try to attract women, moms who are having a hard time. And they portray that there's one right way to do things. Right. And if you do this, you'll be better. And I think we love cures. We don't like to think of a stepwise process, but I think that amount of information is really challenging to moms because they're sleep deprived, they're anxious, they don't know where to turn, and throw in depression, throw in a kid with medical issues. It's really hard. So I think that's a problem with access. Like you have to plow through so much information to get to evidence-based treatment and answers.
Yeah, that is really real. And I think in some ways the prey upon idea isn't too strong of a word, and that's out there for sure. But
I've felt that for sure.
have you?
For sure. I think,
yeah, in
when
what way?
you have a baby that's crying and you look up how to help your baby sleep, and there's 20 items you can buy on Amazon that promise your baby will sleep right away. And you order them because you want your baby to sleep and you want to sleep. And ultimately, of course, they really don't work. Sometimes it's just waiting until the baby's a little bigger or whatever it might be. But I've definitely experienced that. And I think trying to sort through the information on your own, at least for me, as someone who's not medical, trying to sift through all of that is overwhelming.
And it's a little bit of a setup as well, because if you are like, okay, yes, this is the thing that's going to work, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't work, you don't think, oh, that thing didn't work. That's not your first thought, anyways. It's more, I'm not doing it right, or I must be, whatever, X, Y, or Z, whatever your vulnerability or insecurity is telling you, or whatever depression and anxiety is telling you, you're going to feel bad about yourself first and then not know where to go. Like the potential to feel more helpless is really ripe there.
For sure.
So having some evidence-based information along with lived experience and perspective is, I think, what the hope is for the podcast. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that and the format and why that's so important for you both?
So initially, when I started this project, I was thinking, I love podcasts. They're such a great way to get information. And I had this sort of imagination that you would have this podcast and you would say, this is what you do, 1, 2, 3. But I think as I was thinking about it, and as I met Allie and talked to other people, I think you have to have the lived experience part of it. So you can provide solutions and you can discuss strategies, but I think without having that mom there who's gone through it, I think it lacks something, because I think there's something so powerful about the stories and the experiences. That's what we're hoping to tap into. And then from there to go to the solutions. Because I think so much of the postpartum and pregnancy experiences is really feeling isolated and alone and feeling like you're the only one who's having a hard time. And that's the theme we hear over and over again. And so by having that real mom there, we can start there and then provide solutions and strategies.
So these are moms that have reached out to you or are writing in, or like how are these the moms with lived experience getting to you?
Do you want to answer that question, Allie?
You can go ahead because you usually do all the calls and stuff
Oh,
beforehand. Yeah.
okay. We've, through our website and through various connections like Postpartum Support International, we've put together some casting calls and asking, first of all, what are the questions that moms have? What do they need answers for? And we started off with that collection, and then we talk to those moms and get a sense of what issues would you like us to address? And that's our starting point. And then we line up the various experts who can answer those questions.
And I think sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I think for me too, I am so excited about this because this is the format that I really would have benefited from being pregnant. I think being able to relate to someone and hear that whatever I was experiencing wasn't abnormal, or someone else has gone through this too. Like even, for example, feeding your baby or something. If I'm struggling with breastfeeding, it felt like at the time everyone was nursing and no one was having problems nursing. It was just me. And
Right.
then knowing it's not just me, but then I also really am action oriented and I do want to know, okay, this is the problem I'm having. I'm glad that someone is in this space with me, but now what can I do about it? This is my situation, and how do I move forward? What choices do I have? What are the pros and cons of different parts of those choices? And I think I'm excited about this podcast because I feel like we're able to give a voice to regular moms who are experiencing things, and hopefully listeners can resonate with the things that they're talking about and not feel alone in those situations. But then through Ruta and other experts, provide these evidence-based solutions and action items that they can then use and apply in their lives.
Yeah, and that's great. And the format of both of you being there together to talk to the mom with the ground the sorry, with the lived experience and the grounding in evidence-based and research and e- experience with treatment is really beautiful, because I think there is a way when some taking a step back, if somebody is quote unquote just talking to an expert, there's, I don't know, maybe to be sound a little bit extreme, there could be like a not a power dynamic, but there's the person in need is talking to the person who like quote unquote has all the answers. If you're just going to take a really uninformed, brief, short look at something, which is, of course, is not the case, but bringing in also the lived experience from you at the same time. And it's just a beautiful combination of the experience that you have, Ruta, of the research and the treatment and the understanding of things in these clinical ways and treatment ways, and then Allie, you bringing in your lived experience as well. It brings such a nice balance that I haven't heard yet in a podcast for perinatal mental health in particular, where all of that comes together in the same place at the same time.
That's our goal. That's our goal. And I think we're hoping to build that bridge between those two worlds, because I think there's not a lot that kind of where you see the patient in the same room as treater, as the same room as a mom with experience, and it goes back and forth. And I think at least the way I practice medicine, at least the way a lot of reproductive psychiatrists I know practice medicine, it's really a collaborative effort. It's not just being a talking head or this is what I want you to do. It's really taking into consideration experience, preference, and rolling it all up into a collaborative message, a collaborative product that we all agree on. So I think putting them all in the same room is really important and good for moms to see. And nobody wants to see a psychiatrist. Nobody wants to see me. But if we can make it not a pleasant experience, that's not what we want to do. But at least we can model what can be gained from finding a good, competent, and well-informed treater. Like, what can it bring to the picture?
Yeah, for sure. It makes it more accessible, makes it more possible for somebody who's struggling to see, oh, I can reach out. They're not going to bite, or it doesn't mean I'm, quote unquote crazy, like all the things that
Exactly.
society has made moms to feel historically and currently. Yeah, it just makes it seem like treatment is more possible. And stigma, that's what it was coming up for me. It really a lot reduces the stigma of seeking out help and support as at the same time as you're hearing from somebody who has a lived experience. And
I think,
for you, Allie, yeah, what were you going to say about that?
yeah, I was just going to say, first of all, I learn things from Ruta every time we have conversations. So I definitely want to be talking to Ruta. But I think in terms of like our first episode that we released was about sleep. And when I was having my babies and they were little, I was totally sleep deprived. And although I realized that I needed more sleep, I didn't really know the questions to ask or if that was something I should have even prioritized in my mind. I just had to get my baby to sleep and then I would figure out how to sleep. But now looking back on it and being able to have a little bit of perspective, my youngest is 3, so I'm not so far away from it. But I think being able to be a mom with lived experience, but also have the benefit of a few years down the road and not being sleep deprived,
Yep.
thinking about questions that I have now that could have made my experience better, I think has also been really great to hear the answers and to get those answers that I didn't even think to ask those questions before, but
Yeah.
hopefully benefit some sleep deprived mom who's also not able to formulate those questions in the throes of a newborn.
For sure. And when I was listening to the first episode, I was identifying with, I don't remember if it was you, Allie, or the mom who was experiencing it. When I had my second, actually, I was so sleep deprived. He was just a different sleeper than my first, that I couldn't even remember the steps to do like the sleep training that worked for my daughter. I had to reach out to somebody to be like, look, my brain is somewhere else, too foggy. Can you please just give me the step by step? Because I can't think clearly. And just like hearing that, even for me, hearing that in that first episode was like, I still get validation from my own experience. There's still healing available, even if you're down the line a bit. But that's part of the stuff that does make it so accessible and relatable. And I love that you guys started your first episode with sleep because it's like foundational, really. When you say that, Ruta?
It, there is, I can't think of anybody, friend, family, patient who doesn't complain of sleep issues. Or if they don't have sleep issues, they're worried about it because it's been an issue in the past or they know about postpartum. So it's just a great starting place for everybody. And I think the other one is feeding and breastfeeding. And we will also be covering that issue.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's part of what I wanted to know as well. Like, what's on the list? What are some of the things you're really looking forward to getting to?
So based on the priorities of what people asked questions about, the number one was sleep. Feeding issues was another. We're hoping to do an episode on postpartum anxiety. Our next episode is really a general episode about the use of medications during pregnancy, what sort of questions come up with that, how to negotiate that. That one's definitely in the works. Allie, we have a huge list, but
We do
maybe
have a huge list. I was going to say, I
Say.
think we were running Google Doc on all of our topics. I think we have about 40 that we want to cover that we've pulled from suggestions that we've received, just other people we've polled. And do you have any suggestions? We just would, there's so much to cover. And I
Right.
think being able to cover it in this lens of a mom who's currently experiencing something, a lived experience, an expert, Ruta, just that grouping of people. I think it really provides a great forum for discussion and answers and solutions too.
Yeah, I love that you have that many topics already at hand. You're going to be busy for a minute getting to all of those. But right, as you guys know, like once you get into the specialty, it's okay, yes, maternal mental health, perinatal mental health is here, and that's a specialty within a specialty already. And then there's so many things to cover. Even if there's similarities, commonalities between people's experiences, there's still each person's experience is different. And in combination with, I think, Ruta, you have a large research bank at your fingertips, right, for at MGH.
We do. We've been looking at pregnancy and the postpartum in women who come to the perinatal period already with histories of a mood and anxiety disorders. It used to be thought that pregnancy was a time of emotional well-being. It turns out that many women get depressed, many women experience a relapse of their disorder. There's a lot of high rates of anxiety. So I think the statistics are like 1 in 3 to 1 in 5 women have a mood or anxiety disorder during pregnancy and the postpartum period. So it's by no means rare. And initially, we started looking at the trajectory of these disorders. More recently, we're trying to increase information on the reproductive safety of various medications that are used during pregnancy. So we have a registry where we gather information on the use of specific medications during pregnancy. We have a lot of data on some of the antidepressants, but there's less data on newer medications. There's less data on mood stabilizers or ADHD medications. So we're really trying to bank on that large group of moms who interact with our program and try to get more information on reproductive safety. So that's where we're headed now. We're also doing a lot more with sort of non-pharmacologic interventions using cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness interventions. Can we prevent postpartum depression and anxiety? We're also looking at systems. So how do we get moms from the OB's office to a mental health provider if they need it? Because still, even after all these years, maybe 30 to 50% of women receive some type of treatment, but most of those don't receive a full course of treatment. So how do we improve the interventions we are offering? And that's really some exciting work using apps and group CBT, single session CBT, really exciting stuff for us as well.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Allie.
I was just going to say one thing that I'm so excited about is Dr. Ruta's Resource Hub. So it's a companion to the podcast. So each time we release an audio podcast version, Ruta is the editor in chief of womensmentalhealth.org. She's incredible, and she's curating more information about each topic online. So it will be a separate part of womensmentalhealth.org, and it will have all of the information that we shared on the podcast, but then it will be additional information curated by Ruta. So that's live now, which I'm so excited about. And the format is great. It's so easy to use. And it just goes through for this first one, sleep. Why is it important? What did we discuss on the podcast? And then it goes even further onto, if you want to do a deeper dive onto any topic, Ruta has all of these articles and websites that she's curated on it. So again, it's information, a lot of information, but it's curated by an actual expert human physician, which for me, I'm so excited about it. And it will be updated additionally with each episode, whatever that topic is, will be more information online, and you can trust it. It'll be available coinciding with each episode. So that I'm excited about that online resource too.
That's brilliant. Just brilliant. I can't even think of more ways to make this more accessible. There's just having it in multiple forms and formats, like listening, reading. Like people sometimes need both or one or the other, but that's beautiful and makes it really easy also to share. Like if somebody who's listening to it and is gobsmacked or whatever by this information, or they feel like they want to scream it from the mountaintops, you share the episode, you share the resource from the hub and get the information that way.
Yeah, I'm always so surprised. I live in this world and every day I think about it and it seems so readily available to me. But then when I actually see a patient and they're sitting in front of me and they say, I tried this, I couldn't find this, I didn't know where to look. It isn't easy. Really trying to meet people where they are and trying to provide the information in digestible formats. Our website tends to be more medically oriented, and I think we've been successful in attracting providers, but we really need to help bridge the divide between people who might not be medical professionals and absolutely need that information. And part of it is telling that mom, look, there's information here. Can you share it with your provider so that they actually can help you? Your provider might not know much about using trazodone during pregnancy, but here, share this article or this resource with them. There's multiple approaches, but we really want to bridge that gap.
I think going back to just how there's too much information almost, it's hard to even sift through. I think women are intelligent. And if they just have the information, they can advocate for themselves and they can feel empowered in that way. But when there's too much information and it's conflicting in a lot of ways, you're not confident and you will defer to whoever your provider is. And most of the time, I'm sure that's great, but sometimes it doesn't feel right or it's not working for you. And then what do you do? So I think for me, I'm so excited about Dr. Ruta's resource hub and just this online resource because it is curated and you can feel confident in going to it and getting answers. And one thing I learned when I joined this Maternity Services Council back in 2018 was a lot of our questions as moms are pretty basic, but it's hard to even find answers to very basic questions. Like, what's the temperature of my child's room supposed to be when they're sleeping? Or is it really terrible to feed my child formula? Like, everyone talks about breast is best and formula is the second choice. What does that actually mean? Or what effects will my child have if I give him or her formula? Or whatever the question is. Sometimes it's basic, but you go online and you go down all these different rabbit holes and you find conflicting information on almost anything, even if it's a very basic question.
And yeah, to your point, even the basic questions when you feel conflicted or you don't have the right answer, I think if are contributors to feeling depressed, feeling anxious, feeling
For sure.
hopeless, or not necessarily always like to a clinical level, but at least like feeling disempowered or confused is absolutely going to contribute to feeling bad. And so providing that information, having it accessible is
Our
in a lot
brain
of ways preventative.
our brains like to understand and to give meaning to things. So when there's a jumble out there, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help us get out of a difficult situation. It just perpetuates that difficult situation.
Absolutely. So with the first several episodes out now, I know it's early in the process, but are you receiving feedback? Are you hearing from people that their excitement about it or how it's been helpful?
Other than family members, I assume. Lots of family support, a little bit. I think certainly what's been really exciting is so much excitement about putting all of this together and opening it up for a community to be involved in it, whether it's the experts from our community or moms from our community. So I think there's certainly been a lot of excitement about it and some really good feedback initially, but it only came out yesterday. So.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's right.
I think one thing that we have been excited about is the trailer stayed in the top 20 for Apple Podcast trailers for about a month, I think, which we were really
Amazing.
excited about. Just meant people were excited about the topic and wanted to learn more. And that was really validating for us to see
Absolutely.
too. So hopefully a lot of people can benefit from the episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the kind of release? How frequently does it come out? What can people look forward to there?
Allie?
Sure. So we're hoping to have about 9 to 10 episodes in the first season. It's interesting with the sleep one, we just had so much information from Dr. Jade Wu. She was incredible. And so we ended up adding a bonus episode too. So it really became 2 episodes just because it was so much great information. So our plan is to have about 9 or 10 episodes in the first season. We'll wrap those up around in June, maybe, and then we'll start recording season 2 and start releasing those hopefully around September.
Oh, great. Is it like coming out weekly?
So we're trying to do 1 to 2 a week. So for the sleep one, it ended up being 2 episodes, but it'll probably be about once a week moving forward and through, I think, June or so.
Oh, that's awesome.
Ruta, is that right? I think that's right.
I think it's once a week or every other week. I think we're new to
Still
it.
figuring
So
it out.
we're giving ourselves a little bit of a flexible timeline.
Good. Which is one of the beauties of podcasting. You can do whatever you want. There's no podcast police tell you how to do it or what to do. So that's great. And in terms of amount of listening time, it seems to be around like 30 to 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it around 30 minutes. So it's more of a digestible morsel for people who are really busy, whether they read it on their walk or on the way to school, that they can finish it from beginning to end.
Great. Yeah, another way that it's accessible and easy to get to.
And I guess one of the things I would like to say too is thank you so much, Dr. Kat, for having us on, because I think I love any story I see of women supporting women, I think is so inspiring always. And us being new to this podcast space, and obviously you have such an incredible show and are so well established, and being able to listen to your podcast, I love listening to it and learning from you in that way. And I think you're right. The more people that are talking about this, the better. And I wish everyone could feel like there was no stigma anymore, because all of these things that we all experience are so normal and so many people go through them, and being able to hear from all different places that what you're experiencing is normal is just so reassuring and validating and empowering in a lot of ways. And I think that's really what our goal is for this podcast, is to leave women feeling validated in their experience, but also empowered to move forward in whatever their direction is.
Beautiful.
And I want to add just the sort of sense of hopefulness is something we really want to convey, that their pregnancy and the postpartum is not easy. There are certain challenges, but there are ways to negotiate these things. There's growth that occurs during the process of negotiation, and to make women aware of not only medical professionals, but all the amazing support that's out there, including groups like Postpartum Support International, which has grown so much over the last few decades and really support such a diverse population of moms and moms with different experiences. So there's the lived experience part we want to convey, there's the social support network, and then the more traditional treatments. But there's a lot of options for women, and we want them to really feel hopeful. We want them to share this information with other moms who are in the same situation or a similar situation, and hopefully really bolstering that network.
I think and another thing too that I feel strongly about is when you have a baby, it's such a different experience than anything you've ever gone through before. And you can't really do anything to practice that. If you move to a different city, you've maybe been to that city before, or you know what it's like to live in a different city. So you can visualize and feel how it will feel. But having a baby, you don't know how your body will react when you're pregnant. You don't know how it will be postpartum. You don't know what it's going to be like to be a parent. It's just, you can't practice those things in the same way we practice other big decisions or big moments in our lives. And I think having something like this as a resource is just really great for being with you on that journey and validating those experiences, because like I said before, you don't even know all of the questions that you'll have, or how you'll feel or how you'll react, and you really are a different person after you've experienced these things. And being able to have a resource that's growing with you in that way is, I think, really valuable, and hopefully we'll be able to help a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things that's beautiful about your format is that people don't want to think or assume that they're going to have a hard time in pregnancy or postpartum. So sometimes that's a deterrent a little bit to learning about what could happen, to be prepared, because learning about it is, and then not having solutions or resources that you hear about along with that can be really hard. But you're saying, like, here's a thing that could happen, and here are some ways to cope and deal with it at the same time. So I think for people who are hesitant about looking into this, your format, how you're bringing it all together, will make it easier for people to learn about preventative measures along with learning about what could happen. It's just awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means so much coming from you. You've been doing this for a really long time.
It's been a minute. Yep. I thank you so much for both of you for coming on to share about the podcast, share about your passion for this and your work here to be supporting other moms. It's a beautiful podcast that you've created, and I have high hopes that it's going to help a lot of people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please go check out So Glad You Asked wherever podcasts are available on your favorite podcast listening platform. And you can also go to womensmentalhealth.org, and you can find them on Instagram at MGHCWMH. So go find their podcast, like and follow and subscribe, and also leave a rating so that everyone can know how that resource, how that podcast has benefited you. And if you haven't yet done that for the Mom and Mind podcast, while you're at it, hop on over there, give us a star rating and a review so that people know how listening to the podcast could benefit them as well. And especially during this Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month, please share this episode, share their episodes, share any resource you have with any hopeful and expecting or postpartum new mom or parent, so that they can have resources, so that they know that they are not alone and they can find the help and support that they need and deserve. If all of us are raising awareness during this month and beyond that, then hopefully we can get to a point where people aren't finding out about perinatal mental health issues by surprise when they're at their most vulnerable. Hopefully we can make sure that people have information and resources and access so that they can have a better time in this transition into motherhood and parenthood. And as always, I thank you so much for being with us today. Until next time.